Welcome to Bear Necessities, the official Coventry Bears podcast. You can find us at coventrybears.com or wherever you normally get your podcasts, and we are very glad to have you here. I'm one of your hosts, Dave Musson. I'm very excited to get into this show in particular, as I'm sure my co-host is too. It's former Bears fullback Craig Cathcart. Craig, that was a lot of fun on Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm very happy, Dave. I've got a celebratory whiskey next to me right now. Probably unprofessional to say that while we're recording a show, but we need to celebrate when we can. And this was a day where I feel like celebrating.
Definitely. So in this show, we are going to be looking back on the Bears' terrific 38-30 victory against Rochdale Hornets, one of the promotion favourites and a team with 150 years of history behind them. We're going to hear from Bears head coach Rich Squires and player coach Dave Scott as well. And because the games just keep on coming in 2021, we will also look ahead to this weekend's trip to the North Wales Crusaders. But first, let's relive Sunday's very special game. And it couldn't have been more different from a week ago when it was about 7 degrees. It was miserable. It was windy. It was cold. And everyone went home from the butts very disappointed. Last Sunday, the sun was out. It was in the mid-20s and the Bears put on quite the show. Bears actually scored first after about 6 minutes. Dave Scott, who would score again later in the game, a really great break down the right edge. Liam Whelham making some serious yards, some good hands, and our player coach finished near the sticks, and Dan Coates added the conversion to make it 6-0. And the Bears backed that up with a really good set and had a great opportunity to score back-to-back tries. But unfortunately, they got turned over about 10 metres out. And that actually set the platform for Rochdale to go up the other end and score. So they levelled things after about 12 minutes. And then a few minutes later, they scored again. And that was a pattern that we did see throughout the game, that basically wherever Rochdale were able to force a repeat set, they ended up scoring from it. And it was, at times it was troubling. Ultimately, it didn't matter because, woohoo, the Bears won. But this is how it was in the middle of the game. But the Bears didn't back down. And I think that's something we have said in the better performances from this season. Bears teams of old might have let their heads drop at that point, but not the Bears of 2021. And they scored to bring it back to within 2 points just after the halfway point of the first half. Kadeem Williams back in the team, making the most of a Matty Whelham ball steal, quick play the ball, and Kadeem powered into the left corner to score. The conversion was unfortunately missed, and then Rochdale did go at the other end and score again to extend their lead to 18-10. The Bears didn't give up. They scored again. Liam Whelham, this time scoring. There was a penalty given to the Bears for a bit of fisticuffs, something else we will return to later on. That set the position for the Bears. And Liam just got the ball, cut back, showed his strength and powered through and scored. The conversion took that to 16-18. That was looking good going into half time. Unfortunately, Rochdale did score again just before the break. That man, Fui Moi, who, to be fair to him, looked incredibly fit, incredibly strong, and had a very impressive game. He powered over from not far out. You're never going to stop that man from there, even if he is 40 years old. And the conversion took it to 24-16 to the visitors, which was the halftime score. But it was by no means over. The Bears scored first in the second half. Nathan Hill bagging his 4th try of the year about 5 minutes after the break. He just scooted in from dummy half, and that took it to 20-24 and made it 4 tries apiece. So again, the Bears were looking good, but again, Rochdale edged out in front. They forced a repeat set and they scored from the field position, and that took their lead to 10 points. Now again, at that point, 10 points with about half an hour to go. Perhaps Bears of old might have dropped. But actually what sparked a bit of a recovery for the Bears was a really big fight. Can't entirely remember what sparked it. Liam Whelham was involved. Reece Rance ended up going over and being dragged over. It was all a bit of nothing, but it really seemed to rouse something in the Bears. And they really started taking the game to Rochdale, even more than they had been already. And not long after that, a Rochdale player was sin-binned for a tackle on Sam Bowering, which I don't think it was intentional, but it ended up being quite a nasty looking one. He did bring Bowering down on his head, and he quite rightly got a 10 minutes in the bin. And this was the crucial turning point of the game. The Bears absolutely capitalised on having a man up and scored 2 tries in the space of 2 minutes. First, Harry Kaufman, another man coming back into the squad for his first appearance of the season, hit the ball with an absolutely superb line and smacked it over. The conversion took it to 26-30. And then Rochdale just really lost their heads. The kickoff, they kicked it dead. And from the penalty that the Bears took from that, they had the field position. And Matty Wellham this time ended up getting the ball and cut in to score. And that conversion took it to 32-30 with, to be honest, we didn't really know how long left because there'd been quite a few stoppages in the second half. And both Craig and I were guessing anywhere between 5 minutes and 12 minutes left. So quite stressful as we were going towards the end of the game. And Rochdale started to force it a bit more. But then came the crowning moment when we all knew it was going to happen. Rochdale were trying to play the ball wide to their winger, flew a ridiculous pass out there. The winger dived to try and keep the ball in play. I'm not entirely sure why he did that because the ball just went straight into the arms of Liam Wellham. He popped it back inside to Dave Scott, who sprinted in from about 60 metres out to go in under the posts. Touched it down, his second try of the game, the Bears' 7th try of a 12-try match. Conversion made it 38-30, and that is how it ended. Absolutely terrific performance and another historic victory for the Bears. So Craig and I are going to offer our thoughts on that game shortly. But first, let's hear both post-match interviews, one after another. So we'll have player coach and double try scorer Dave Scott coming up. But first, here's head coach Rich Squires.
Well, this is a bit of a different feel to our post-match chat to last week. I mean, you wanted a reaction from last week, and boy, did you get it! What a terrific win! How did you find that?
Yeah, they knew they didn't. No, it wasn't at the best last week, and we had a good session on Wednesday, and just talked. Look, if we knew what we can do, we'll be able to get the job done if we stay step for step. These are a really good team, and Rochdale came off a really good win against Kiefer last week, so we knew it was an energy battle on an absolute scorcher day. But we won the energy battle, and we came out the other side of it.
What do you think was the difference this week? Because from the stands, it looked like there was more focus on the pitch, perhaps a bit more sticking to what you guys had told them, and just more energy. Was it as simple as that? Were they just more focused?
Yeah, we went away. We had no energy last week, so anything we did we couldn't seem to get anything with it. But everyone stuck together today, and our leaders really took it around the park. And we said at half time, if we can stay within a try with them, we're a fitter team. We're probably fittest in the league. And these conditions suit us down to the ground. Obviously, then going down to 12 men helped us as well. So, but it was a learning curve. We got to 60 minutes and we're probably in the same situation, the same as Barrow. So we spoke about that and how we address it, and we come out the other side today and we've learned from that. We haven't really got big game experience because we haven't been in them situations before, but we've learned from Barrow and come out the other side of it positively today.
And you mentioned the sin binning. It was obviously a crucial part because going into that sin binning, Bears were 10 points down and you managed to score twice in that period. That feels like something that Bears teams of old might not have been able to capitalise on. Again, is there anything you can pinpoint around that? Is it just thinking, playing smarter, a bit more leadership in the middle, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it's just their leadership. I thought our right side was very good today with Dave Scott and Liam Wellham. And Liam really took us around the park and across the board. We've got leaders across, so there's different bits where we could have kind of faded away, and kind of go away from what we were meant to be doing. But we said, if don't get bored of being boring. The boring stuff was working for us, so why go away from it? But it's finishing games out. It's the first time they've actually managed to finish a game out and been in a position to do it, and they had to work tough to do it. So they've done it well. So that's the best thing to be proud of, I think.
And we talked last week about there being a few changes likely for this game, and Harry Kaufman came in, Kadeem Williams came in, and Will Budd came in. Two of those guys scored tries. I thought Will didn't move an inch in defence either. How pleased were you with those guys coming in and taking their chances?
That is exactly what we needed them to do, which is add a little bit of extra energy, and we've said we've got strength in depth this year, so if you have a bad game, everyone's going to be chomping at the bit to kind of get a game. I thought Kadeem was really good defensively. We have to, obviously he's not a natural winger, so we have to push Matty Wellham out there and they keep swapping and changing. Thought Harry Kaufman brought a ton of energy, which is what his game's all about. Does the little things really well and was rewarded for a try, and he doesn't score many. And Will Budd does the stuff in the middle. They've got a very big middle pack, and he was coming on the same time as obviously for we and Joe Tayara, so he had a job to do and he did it really well. He's still really young as well, so that's why we kind of made the change at the end. He still has some left in him, but go for more experience just to get to where we need to be.
And one quick one, I noticed Jack Dawson sort of was forced out fairly early on. What's the prognosis on him?
Yeah, he just tweaked his groin. So when he did a change of direction, it wasn't there. So he wanted to go back on, but I think he was only straight line, so it was best to kind of, especially in a game like that, is somebody who can finish the game and do it to a high standard and be fit enough to do it. So fair play to him, he was there, but he's tweaked his groin, so we'll see where he is this week. And it's a shame really, because he's had a really good pre-season and been really good the first three, so it's a shame for him, but the boys work hard together.
So on the road next week, North Wales Crusaders, they're one of those teams that are always in and around the same sort of positions as the Bears historically. How does today's result change how you go into that game?
Nah, we just need to, we've said it before, we need to match that. If we match that, we'll take any team to where we need to be. So we did it against Barrow, got the result against West Wales. Kind of went in a little bit too confident last week, but we'll learn from that, and as a group, they'll learn from that. So we know exactly what we need to do, and we can't get ahead of ourselves with that. But we'll go in quietly confident next week. But it's another learning curve that we keep building from. And
just lastly, for anyone who has a sort of passing interest in rugby league or doesn't follow League One too closely and may have stumbled across this result on the weekend, what would you say to somebody like that who might write it off as a fluke or just Rochdale having an off day?
We'll come down and watch us. If you watch the way we're playing in the minutes, I guarantee you right now there'll be more results like this across the board this season. You've got a very confident and very good ability group across, in the squad. So, if you think it's cocky or you think it's a little bit of luck, just come down to the butts or follow us anywhere else and get a bum on seat and watch us, because it'll be entertaining stuff.
Great, Rich. 2 out of 2, back on track. Well done. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you,
Dave. Bit of an improvement from last week.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking for a response this week, and I think just looking at the scoreboard, you can tell that we got one. So we're absolutely delighted, and the boys have enjoyed that one in the changing rooms, and rightly so.
Tell me how it felt when you caught that ball and sprinted in the 60 metres to sort of wrap up the game sealing try.
I think it was a bit of relief more than anything. We knew that we were in the lead. We had 2 points on them, and the talk in the field was we don't have to win the game twice. Stay composed, and we'll win the football game. We'll see it out. And I think they just tried to overplay a little bit, and we got the bounce for the ball. Liam managed to get hold of it, and I was just fortunate enough to be on the end of it and finish it off. So a bit of relief, but a fantastic feeling, and to do it in front of the fans as well, even more special.
Just talking to Rich in his post-match interview, and we were talking about leadership on the pitch today, and he particularly singled out you and Liam, that right edge. It really feels like there's something coming together there, and you are having a lot of influence on the game between you and Liam, aren't you? It felt like a big game for you both today.
I mean, Liam and I played 7 or 8 years ago at Doncaster together, so we're fairly familiar with how each other plays. We both live in Hull, we've both travelled together for long periods, so yeah, we're good mates off the field as well, and I really enjoyed playing with Liam, and he's done a fantastic job down that right edge, and yeah, I can't compliment him enough. He makes my job easy.
And you had a few players coming into the squad for the first time this season, Kadeem, Harry and Will. How impressed were you with how they slotted in and did a job today?
Yeah, I think they all stood up. I don't think they put many feet wrong whatsoever. There had to be a change-up. I think from last week you could see there was a massive dip in performance and we weren't quite at the races. And when that happens in this league, I think I said it last week, you can get beaten by anyone. So the lads that came in, they know that there's competition for places. They know that they've got to perform. Otherwise, they're at risk of being dropped again next week. I think they all put the best foot forward. And again, we've got another selection headache, which... it's a problem, but it's a problem I'd much rather have than a problem of, oh my God, who are we actually going to pick to do a job here? So I can't compliment the boys enough on the performance today. They've really put the best foot forward, so well done to them.
And next week, a trip to North Wales, a team that traditionally sort of are usually in or around the same sort of position as the Bears. How do you see that one going into off the back of this result now?
Yeah, look, we've got momentum on our side, so that's a massive positive. We managed to turn it around from last week, which is what we wanted that response. Looking at North Wales Crusaders, I mean, they've had some results, they've had some close games, and it's not going to be an easy trip whatsoever. So it's a massive challenge for us, but we need to make sure we turn up and do a job, and that means improving again on what we've delivered today. We did well today, but we can still get better, and there's more to come from the Bears.
And just lastly, I mean, throughout pre-season, we were kind of focusing on this first month, these first 4 games, and we'd perhaps from a realistic point of view, we're thinking probably targeting 2 wins. From an optimistic point of view, and you talked about wanting to get 3 out of the 4. We've come to the end of the month and have won half of the games, and it's kind of been a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, how do you assess this first 4 weeks? Is it overall a positive start to the season, do you think?
It's a massive positive, and I think today the lads really need to take away some belief. They need to believe how good they are and how good they can be when they stick to systems and processes, because we've just shown today that if we do that, we're a very good team and we're very difficult to beat. But it's when we come away from that and start doing our own things, that's when the game becomes tough for us. So we need to learn from that. It's an experience thing, but hopefully we're sending the right message to the boys. I think looking back at those 4 games, we wanted to win 3 out of 4. We've won 2. I think probably anyone outside of this group would have snapped your hand off for 2 wins out of 4 looking at these first 4 fixtures. Personally, looking at the group that we've got and looking at the quality that we've got, I'm disappointed that we've not won all 4. However, we're building towards something, and this win today is key in that.
Dave, terrific again today. Thank you so much, and good luck for next week.
Cheers, Dave. Thank you. Pleasure as always.
So huge thanks to both Dave and Rich for joining us as ever. Right, Craig, I'm not entirely sure where to start with this. I mean, a week on from a really disappointing performance, the contrast couldn't have been more stark, not just in terms of the weather, but and the general feeling around the ground, but the way the Bears played this week compared to last week. It was, a really terrific, organised performance. I think a statement result, massive turnaround after last week, and a thoroughly well-deserved win in a pretty even contest, actually. I mean, what were let's start with overall thoughts. What were your feelings on Sunday's performance?
Well, I know last week, the result last week, everyone around the club was bitterly disappointed with that. It was a game that everyone involved felt we should have won. Scholars were the better team on the day, absolutely. They played very, very well to get the win, especially in the last 20. So they've had all week to think about it. And the sign of a good squad is a squad that can take a defeat like that on the chin and go out and put it right. And they did. There was a couple of guys coming in for the first, three players coming in for their first appearances of the season. I know that the guys really, really worked hard this week to get themselves prepared both physically and mentally for this game. And as you said, it's 10 points down with 20 minutes to go or so. That normally, I have to say, in the past would spell the end of the Bears' resistance and more experienced teams would go on to see the game out. But we just hung on in there. We really made it difficult for them. There was just great performances across the pitch. It really felt, I remember turning to you at one point and saying, we're actually in this still. We're really giving them a hard time, and we're really something feels good about this. We really were putting them under a lot of pressure. Their mistakes crept into their game. They started to look tired because I think it was a 20-minute spell where we pretty much had set after set. They defended and then they went down a man. So, and we took advantage of that. We didn't let it galvanize them. We actually sniffed the chance to get back in the game, and we did it. It was just brilliant, superb all round, and some really good skills on show as well. And you know what? For the 4th game this season, we've scored a hatful of tries. It just shows you can score tries from anywhere. To score 7 tries against Rochdale is just fantastic. I mean, they went out, their result last week was the complete opposite of what the Bears did. I mean, they went to Keighley and put 40-something points on them. So they would have been coming into this game full of confidence and think, I'm absolutely sure they didn't take anything for granted, but they certainly wouldn't have been expecting to have such a hard game on their hands. And we broke their resistance with about 20 minutes to go. And at that point, then it looked absolutely certain that the Bears were going to win. It was just absolutely brilliant. I can't praise the guys enough, and you could just see it in their faces. They really, really wanted it. They've talked a lot about what they can do to put things right this week, and it's just fantastic to see. And we've beaten some northern teams in the past, but we've generally not done it in such a professional way like that. People, as you said, will start thinking about whether or not Rochdale had an off day. Maybe they did, but actually we were superb and fully deserved the win.
Yeah, and one thing Rich said in his post-match interview was talking about, he threw the line out there that he reckons his Bears team are the fittest team in the division. And I think one thing I remember saying to you during the game was when we were trying to work out which props were on the field, and we were working out when Peter Ryan and Will Budd were going to come back on. And we said, it looks like they're banking on fitness being a factor in those last 20 minutes. And I think it's been clear for anyone to see that the Bears are a very fit team this season. And that fitness with a bit more leadership on the field that we've talked about already this season, particularly that right edge, Dave Scott and Liam Wellham, wealth of experience there. They've played together at Doncaster in the past. They know each other's game and they do offer real leadership. But that fitness, that leadership, and then that little sequence of the fight, the sin bin, and the Bears pulling back that 10-point deficit to getting in the lead and then extending it. That just felt like such a massive moment, not just in this game, but I think in terms of what it could do to the confidence and the belief that this squad should have in themselves. Because, we mentioned earlier, but there's another game coming up right away next week. If ever there's a season where you want to take the positives and just run with it in the next game, it's this year. And it feels like that last 20 minutes could be a massive, massive influence on the rest of this season, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a complete turnaround from last week where there was the final 20 minutes, things just went completely wrong. And this week, the guys showed real composure. And, honestly, Rochdale looked out on their feet. They couldn't handle the pace and the fact that the Bears were making yards every set at that point. And, when we were in defence as well, they ran out of ideas in the second half. I think they probably expected to make easy yards up the middle. Traditionally, that's where teams have targeted the Bears. They've gone up the middle, made lots of yards, and then spread it wide to score. But actually, defensively, we were brilliant again. We let ourselves down a little bit last week against Scholars at times, but tackling in 3s and 4s again today, just superb. And wrapping players up, stopping them getting the offloads, putting them under a lot of pressure, getting in their faces, making them make mistakes. It was just brilliant to watch.
Now you mentioned just then about there were 3 players coming into the squad making their first appearances of the season. So Kadeem Williams, Harry Kaufman, and Will Budd. I mean, it speaks volumes that 2 of those 3 scored tries, and Will Budd, the one who didn't score a try, he was superb in defence. I mean, he took a battering from Fui, but he still brought the man down, didn't he? And it wasn't quite the hit that Peter Ryan put in a couple of years ago that we still talk about. But it really does show the strength in the Bears squad this year. To make 3 changes, that's not insignificant on a squad of 17. And for them to come in and to just not only not disrupt the team, but to improve it really, and to really put in terrific performances all around. And I don't think we've ever seen Harry Kaufman score a try since we've been doing this podcast.
I think that's his first ever Bears try, as far as I recall. He might have scored another in another game, but I'm pretty certain that's his first ever.
Yeah, he took it like a veteran sort of a seasoned try scorer, didn't he?
It was brilliant. And do you know what, with Harry, he's been around the club for a few years now, and the reason we like him so much is he always gives 110% when he's on the field, and he's one of those guys around that every club needs, where when he's asked and called upon, he'll come in and he'll do his job and he'll do it well. And I don't think necessarily he's a spectacular player, but he's really, really steady. He does his job. He brings a lot of energy onto the field, and he was brilliant today. Really, really good.
The moment I understood Harry and his game was if you go back to the Widnes game in the Challenge Cup in the 2018 season, and obviously that was a bad, a pretty one-sided result, but there were 2 men in that match who really stood up and really brought it to Widnes, who were a Super League team at that time, and it was Gertch and Harry. And like that was I think I said to you in the week, like when we were discussing about whether Harry might come into the squad, and I think I mentioned like that this felt like the sort of game that he would like to get his teeth into. You know, a sort of a very he seems to relish that position of the underdog, which the Bears are often in. And yeah, I thought he offered so much on Sunday. And Kadeem operating sort of slightly out of position as a left winger. We've only really seen him as a centre or occasionally a second row. I mean, he took his try brilliantly, but he was, as we've always seen him with him, superb in defence. And it really feels like we've got a bit of a hole in that left wing position with Hayden Freeman being injured at the moment and still going to be out for it. You know, I saw him at the ground on Sunday. It's still going to be at least another 4 weeks before his cast is off. Feels like Kadeem could be a good solution for that corner, really.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of Kadeem, as I am, really. He's another brilliant club man. His attitude is top notch. I think he came in with a couple of niggling injuries at the start of the season. But again, when he was called upon today, he's come in and he's been superb. His defence today was phenomenal, really, really good, put in some massive hits. And, you know, when he got the opportunity to score, he sprinted in on the corner. As I said to you during the game, I didn't think he was that quick, but he made another good run as well in the second half where he made loads of yards and looked really rapid. So he's done a really good job. And, that, again, demonstrates the strength and depth this year. I think traditionally, I guess going back in previous years, we had a fairly strong first 13, but when any of those dropped out, there wasn't always much strength and depth off the bench. And particularly when the squad had injuries, we found it hard. We've always found it hard to replace like for like. But actually, the guys come in today and were just brilliant. So that's a good thing. It shows that, I think it shows anyone in the squad, if they don't perform, then there is someone willing to come in and do a good job in their place. So having that competition there is only going to drive everyone on and drive improvements.
And two more men I wanted to mention. I mean, we've already heard from Dave Scott, and he scored 2 tries, and we've already raved about him this season. I thought he was terrific again. But the man outside him, Liam Wellham, I mean, we spent most of the game trying to work out exactly how that man runs like he does, because his posture and his physique is so unusual. He's incredibly difficult to tackle. He's incredibly strong in defence as well. But he's been a standout performer in all of the games this season, but he was terrific against Rochdale, wasn't he? He made so many yards and gave the Bears so much go forward at crucial times in the game as well.
His fitness is just phenomenal. I don't know how he does it. I honestly don't know how he does it, because he'll take a few hit-ups, he'll go back in defence, he's putting big hits in, and he just keeps going and going and going, and he never takes a step back. He caused them problems all the way through the game. Genuinely, they hated having to tackle him. He was just brilliant. Genuinely a top quality player. And his brother Matty on the other side as well was superb again today. That, we are very lucky to have those Wellham brothers in the team. Maybe if Christian wants to join next season as well, that would be nice. But they are both superb players, and they really add so much to the Bears' attack, but also defensively, so strong with them in the team. But going on to Dave Scott, I mean, I think I have to say he's already becoming one of my favourite ever Bears players. He's just absolutely brilliant. Brilliant on the ball. He looks like he's got all the time in the world when he's got it. His passing ability is phenomenal. He hits gaps. He's not the biggest guy either, but defensively he's rock solid. Really, really good. I thought he was, as you said, he was just superb today. He's been pretty much the standout performer in every game, I think. But not only that, he's got players outside him that can do stuff with the ball as well. And he's on the same wavelength as everyone else. And I have to say, this halfback partnership we've got with him and Dan Coates is definitely the best halfback partnership we've ever had in League One. They are both top quality players, really, really good. And then when you add Chris Cullymore and how brilliant he is as a hooker into that mix as well, that's a really good three there that just really work well together and know what they're doing. And Dave took both his tries really, really well today as well. He's a brilliant support runner. And once he gets the ball, he's gone because he's rapid as well. Really, really quick.
I think if he keeps that form up, if he keeps this form up and he stays fit and we don't get to see him walking out at the Ricoh Arena or whatever it's called now in a Scotland shirt for that game against Australia, he can feel very hard done by because he is in absolutely sensational form, and I would love him to round off the year with a World Cup game in Coventry. A quick word before we wrap this one up from last Sunday. A quick word on Rochdale. It's our first time covering them on this podcast. I really like the vibe of that club. I've always been impressed by the way they go about things. They're obviously a big name in the sport. I mentioned at the top of the show that they're in their 150th year this year. And they played well on Sunday. I thought it was a really engrossing game to watch, but I don't feel like I went away from that game thinking anything negatively about how they played. I thought, the Bears just got the better of them on the day, but they feel like perhaps almost a bit of a kindred spirit of the Bears in the way they try and approach things and the way they're trying to set themselves up as well.
Yeah, I mean, I thought their fans were top class today. Really, really friendly and joined in the banter. Obviously, they would have been disappointed, and let's just say we've seen fans from other clubs who've come down and when things haven't gone their way, they've not taken it very well, but they took it in good spirits. Andy Maisie, who's in charge of Rochdale, I've just seen has tweeted congratulations to the Bears, and that's a really refreshing thing for the owner of a club, of a traditional club, to do, because we've seen it in the past. I mean, we've beaten Northern teams and they haven't even put the result on their website, and there's been no mention of it. And people involved in those clubs genuinely didn't take it very well. So for him to be like that is very refreshing. And I think they're a very, very good side. But then so are the Bears, and the sooner people realise that, the better, because it's no great shame to lose to this Bears team. They're a very good team, and if people come down here with the attitude that they're just going to stroll up and get an easy win against the Bears, then they'll be mistaken.
Definitely. And your mention of the fans joining in the banter, that reminded me of something that did make me laugh out loud during the first half. Of course, we're used to it at the Butts Park Arena when one of our players lands a conversion. Our man Tim on the PA usually puts over the "Can we kick it? Yes, we can." And when Dan Coates missed his first conversion, I don't know if you clocked it, but a bunch of Rochdale fans suddenly sang, "Can you kick it? No, you can't," which I thought was excellent. That was my kind of humour. I enjoyed that a lot, even though it was against one of the Bears players. But yeah, I echo you. I thought it was terrific how many fans they brought, and there was a really good spirit about that game. There was a lot of respect from both sides, I think, which was really nice to see.
Yeah, we did have an interloper outside the ground as well at one point, didn't we?
We did. We
from outside the ground.
Yes. Yeah. I don't quite know what. Well, I think they'd had a few bank holiday beverages, I think, and were decided that they didn't take too kindly to the sport of rugby league. But again, I thought Tim handled it very, very well. But yeah, you kind of don't really want to repeat that language on a family show. But yes, I mean, credit to Tim as well. I don't know how he had any voice left. Given, for those who don't know, Tim, who does the PA at the Butts, is a Brentford fan when it comes to football. And of course, Brentford got promoted to the Premier League on Saturday at Wembley Stadium, a game he went to. So how he even had the voice to come, and I know he has a microphone, but even so. But he was a massive part of getting that atmosphere going as well. So I'm assuming he's just going to not speak this week. Yeah. I just assume he's not going to speak this week to let his voice recover. Anyway, before we wrap up, let's look ahead briefly to this coming weekend's trip to face North Wales Crusaders. So the Crusaders got beat 44-8 by Barrow on Sunday. I don't think that's necessarily something we can measure anything against, because it feels like this last weekend in particular, League One's really come to life, and all of these results are popping up all over the place. But North Wales, it's one of those tricky ones. In fact, I think North Wales was the first game we ever covered as a podcast, but they're always the Bears are always a bit hit and miss against this lot, aren't they? There've been games when I think there was one in the first year we did the podcast when we went away and beat them. And there've been other times when we've shown good stuff against them, but they've always managed to grind something out against us. So how are you feeling going into this one, particularly off the back of Sunday's game?
We've had some good results against them in the past. Yeah, I think we've drawn twice against them, and we've beaten them once or twice. They're a very good side, though. They've got a good coach, and they've signed some good players this year as well. They've got Patrick Van Aan. Yeah, on the wing. Ex Super League. They've got some really good players in there. So
and Chris Barrett and Dante Morley Samuels as well.
Yeah, I think they'll possibly be a bit disappointed with the result today, although it was against Barrow, who are the only unbeaten side now. And I think are they 2 for 2 or 1 from 3, 1 from 4? Yeah, so Crusaders had a very good win away at Scholars, I think, on week 1. But since then, they've lost 3 in a row, albeit tough games. And obviously they got well beaten by Barrow this weekend. So they'll be looking to put things right. I don't necessarily think their results are a true reflection of how good they are, because they are a very, very good side. But if we can beat Rochdale, and we've shown already that we can compete against the likes of Barrow and other teams, I think we've got a very good chance. I do think it will probably be a close game, and I think they're quite a strong proposition at home. Although, as I understand it, in Wales, you're still not allowed fans at the ground. So they do have a very vocal core of support, don't they? They create a good atmosphere at home, and I think that's possibly something that will be at their disadvantage, not having their home support there. So the Bears can go away there and get a good result. Just need to back up what we've done this week and make sure we do all the good things again. Make sure the performance is still there, and we maintain such a high standard, and we've got every chance of doing it. But they'll be very much targeting that as a game to get their season back on track. So I expect them to train twice as hard this week and really go into the game fired up to try and get the win.
Yeah, I think from a Bears point of view, trust in the process, trust in what they've done well this season, have the right mentality going into it, and when it comes to the game itself, tempo. We've seen in all of the games this season, the Bears have looked at their best when they've kept things moving, they've kept things ticking. That plays to their strengths, and we've seen they're a fit team. They're a well-drilled team, and when we get up and running, so far there's not been. I know we haven't won every game, but there's not been any team when we've played like that. There's been nobody who's been able to live with it. So it's I think, as going back to what Rich said in his interview, that game against Rochdale was basically the first almost full 80-minute performance that we've seen from the Bears this season. And yeah, you're right. They've just got to back it up. So fingers crossed they do. But let's wrap it up there. Enjoy the rest of this week, Bears fans. We all deserve it. And do join us again next week for all the reactions from that Crusaders game. And we'll also look ahead to the first of 4 back-to-back home games where the boys are definitely going to need your support even more than ever to try and keep this positivity train rolling and keep this season rocking along in the Bears' favour. So join us for that. Thanks for listening. Thanks to you, Craig, as always, and we will both see you next week.
Cheers, mate.